My beloved child, sit with me for a moment and allow your breath to slow. Because the words I am about to place into your soul are not meant for the surface, but for the deepest place where you have been weary for a very long time. In that hidden place where no one else can reach. I see clearly the quiet fractures, the wounds that do not bleed yet ache with every rhythm of your life. For years, you have only tried to keep going, tried to hold yourself together, tried to remain steady so no one would see you tremble. But I see every fold of that exhaustion. And I do not come to remind you of your wounds. I come to lift you out of them. This is the moment I pull you away from the emotional aftershocks that cling to your days like a fine dust settling over time. Not to accuse, but to lighten, not to expose, but to heal. This is the beginning of a true restoration. A process I want your heart to feel long before your mind can put it into words. There are things you thought you had forgotten. But in truth, they were only pressed down. Childhood collisions. Moments when misunderstanding was so deep you taught yourself to be silent. Nights. You turned your face to the wall so no one would see your tears. The feeling of being abandoned even while surrounded by people. Casual words spoken by someone that pierced deeper than you realized. All of these created layers of lingering shock, following you like a shadow, making you overreact in certain situations, tightening your chest when nothing threatening was happening, making you defensive even toward those who only wish to love you. I see all these things not because you are weak, but because you have been strong for far too many years, so strong that you never allowed yourself to hurt, never allowed yourself to pause, never allowed yourself to need anyone. And today I speak a very gentle but very true sentence. Enough. When I lead you away from these aftershocks, I do it with gentleness first. I know there are regions within you where even a small touch can make your whole soul recoil. So I do not come with thunder. I come as warm breath in a quiet room. I come as the stillness of a late afternoon. I come as the first drop of water falling upon long dry ground. Not heavy, not forceful, not urgent. I place my hand upon the very places that once hurt the most. And you will begin to feel something you have forgotten. The sensation of being lifted out of your weariness. When I lift you, your defenses will slowly loosen. When I lift you, your true strength will return. When I lift you, your heart will stop shrinking in fear whenever it hears a word of criticism. When I lift you, your mind will begin to breathe again. Many believe that healing means erasing memories. But true healing in me is the transformation of those memories. A wound is never healed by painting over it. It is healed by bringing light to the place where it was formed. When I bring light, darkness has no place to cling to. When I bring truth, old memories lose their power to dictate your reactions. When I bring peace, the things that once terrified you become markers, reminding you how far you have come. This is true restoration. Not turning you into someone else, but returning you to yourself, the version of you that is no longer pulled by fear or suffocated by the pressure to be strong. In the coming days, you will begin to notice me touching the places you once avoided. A sentence may tighten your throat, but this time you will not turn away. An old emotion may rise, but it will no longer sink you as before. A memory that once pierced your heart will now feel like a soft wave brushing the shore. None of this is accidental. These are signs that I am renewing your mind daily. Renewal is not about forcing positivity. It is about revealing the truth I placed in you from the beginning, that you are not broken, not weak, not lacking, not a failure. You simply, music, needed healing. This renewal will shift the way you see the world. The small things that once made you anxious will lighten. The words of others will no longer sink deeply into you. The false beliefs you once took upon yourself will begin to fall away. I will help you distinguish between the true voice and the echoes of old wounds. This discernment is a priceless gift, for it enables you to live as one who carries truth, not as one who runs from emotion. When you know truth, your reactions will change. When you know truth, your decisions will clear. When you know truth, your boundaries will hold without strain. When you know truth, the purpose I placed in you will begin to pull you into alignment day by day. I see the moments when you quietly ask yourself, did I do something wrong? Did I cause them to leave? Am I worthy of love? These questions are not the voice of truth. They are echoes of unhealed pain. And I want to answer each of them gently yet unmistakably. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of being lifted. You are worthy of protection. You are worthy of being heard. You are worthy of rest. And you are worthy of a journey where pain no longer leads the way. I did not create you to endure endlessly. I created you to live. As true restoration begins, you will notice you are no longer the same. Your mind grows lighter. Your heart grows steadier. Your breath grows deeper. Your sleep grows calmer. These small changes are the signs that I am doing the healing work no one else can do. You are not changing because you are trying harder. You are changing because you are being recreated from within. And as this renewal flows outward, everything you touch will shift. The way you speak, the way you love, the way you choose, the way you walk. For when the soul is healed, life itself is naturally renewed. Let me come even closer. For this process is not merely comfort. This is the moment I begin undoing the invisible chains that have wrapped around your soul for years without you even realizing it. There are chains that make no sound. Yet they suffocate spiritual breath, distort emotions, and blur the mind even when everything on the outside appears normal. These chains come from excessive expectations, from careless words others have planted, from seemingly small fears that accumulated into heavy burdens, from wounds you endured without ever having the chance to speak them aloud. I have seen every layer of these unseen bindings. I have seen how each layer pulled you back whenever you tried to step forward. I have seen how each shock made your faith shrink. I have seen how each memory made your heart tighten. And I am stepping in to remove each link. Not by forcefully breaking them, but by the authority that causes them to fall away on their own. When I touch the first chain, the chain of self-blame, your heart will feel a lightness you may not even know how to name. It is not because the wound vanishes, but because the weight of I should have been better no longer presses on your shoulders. For so long, your mind believed it had to be stronger, kinder, more capable, more perfect in order to deserve love or acceptance. Those voices created an invisible pressure that kept your soul constantly tense. I place my hand upon it and say, you do not have to carry this anymore. As this truth sinks in, your heart loosens a little, your shoulders drop a little, your breath deepens a little. That is the sign of the first chain falling. Next, I touch the chain of the fear of abandonment. A fear no one likes to admit, but one that lies deep and dictates countless actions. From childhood moments of being left alone, moments without explanation, without an embrace, without someone listening, there formed a silent conclusion. I have to take care of myself because no one stays. That conclusion became so strong that even as an adult, trusting someone to remain still feels dangerous. I place my hand upon that place. And I do not convince you with logic. I convince you with presence. My presence breaks this chain. Not with pressure, but with the truth that I do not leave. As that truth settles, the fear begins to fade even before your mind understands why. The next chain is the chain of overprotection. The armor you have worn for years. Not because you wanted to be strong, but because so many wounds were never healed. That armor kept you alive. But it also kept you from feeling deeply, from opening fully, from trusting healthily. I do not tear that armor off, for tearing it would only hurt you more. I touch one point gently and it begins to soften from the inside. As it softens, your ability to feel returns. As it softens, warmth returns. As it softens, your heart begins to learn how to trust in a healthy way. Not through reckless falling, but through knowing you are protected. Then I move to the chain of forced silence. The times you wanted to speak, but couldn't. Wanted to react, but didn't dare. Wanted to express, but fear strangled the voice within. This silence became a habit. Just endure it. Let it go. Saying something won't change anything. This habit closed the doors of your soul, compressing emotions until even a small trigger felt overwhelming. I place my hand on your spiritual throat and say, I restore your voice. When those words enter you, your inner voice finally has room to breathe. Truth begins to find a path out. Strength begins rising from the very place that once felt suffocated. After that, I touch the chain of unrealistic expectations, the demands others placed on you, the roles you felt forced to play, the image you believed you had to maintain to avoid disappointing anyone. All of this created a pressure to live without rest. When I free you from this chain, a weight lifts so gently, it may feel unreal. Your shoulders no longer strain to meet the standard. Your heart no longer runs after other people's approval. Your mind no longer has to predict what others want. I return to you the freedom to live according to the truth I placed in you, not the truth others projected onto you. Finally, I touched the deepest chain. The fear of failure. Failure before others. Failure before yourself. Failure in the things you have not yet done. This chain has kept many of your steps frozen because of the fear that one wrong move will ruin everything. When I touch it, it does not fall instantly. It trembles, then cracks, then breaks piece by piece. Not because you suddenly become perfectly confident, but because my presence becomes stronger than your fear. When you know I am here, failure is no longer a nightmare. It becomes a lesson. When you know I lead you, mistakes are no longer the end. They become adjustments. When you know I am behind you, before you, and beside you, courage begins to rise naturally. As each chain falls, your soul begins to stand upright again. Not with the posture of someone trying to prove their strength, but with the posture of someone who has been rescued. A new strength begins forming. Not loud, not dramatic, but the deepest kind, music of strength. Strength from within. Your eyes will begin to brighten again. Your voice will grow steadier. Peace will seep into the corners that were once the darkest. And a knowing will rise within you. I am truly being healed. Step more gently into the deepest part of this process. For this is where I am. Resetting the foundation of your mind. the foundation from which every thought, every reaction, every choice and every direction will be reshaped. When the chains have fallen away, the soul begins to have space to receive what is new. That space is not a frightening emptiness, but an open place where light can enter. In the previous season, many decisions were born out of fear. Fear of rejection, fear of mistakes, fear of disappointing others. Now I want to replace those roots of fear with truth. Truth does not arrive like a harsh command. It comes like warm breath that causes the mind to open naturally. When truth enters, perception shifts, vision transforms, and from there the entire life begins to change. The renewing of the mind is not about forcing yourself to think positively but about learning to stand in the reality I have already established. That reality says your worth is not determined by performance but by the nature with which I created you. That reality says acceptance is not earned by pleasing others but received through the unconditional love of the Father. That reality says your future is not determined by what you have lived through but by what I am renewing each day. When the mind begins to trust what is true, the fears that once ruled lose their power. The small anxieties that stole your sleep become as light as ash. The questions that once tightened your chest become easier to breathe through. And every thought that rises will begin to be filtered through peace instead of fear. One of the most important things I want to plant in your mind is the ability to discern which voice belongs to me and which voice is only the echo of old wounds. My voice always leads to peace. No matter how strong the message may be, the voice of fear always leads to confusion. No matter how logical it may sound, my voice opens the heart. The voice of old chains makes the heart shrink. My voice brings clarity. The voice of painful memories brings only blur. When you learn to distinguish between these two voices, your soul will no longer be easily swept away by chaotic currents. And that very discernment will become the first step to living as one who carries truth. The renewing of the mind also opens a new way of seeing yourself. No longer through the lens of old criticisms. No longer defined by wounds. No longer viewing your life as a series of trials to survive, a new vision arises. The vision of one being led by the Father into purpose. When you know you have purpose, each day gains meaning. Each conversation carries weight. Each decision moves with direction. Life no longer feels empty because every step aligns with the intention of heaven. And when this becomes genuine awareness, confidence is no longer a false inflation of the ego, but a steady strength flowing quietly from within. In this new season, I will teach you to walk as someone who has been set free. Not someone merely trying to avoid breaking. The ability to say no will become clearer. Not out of coldness, but out of healthy boundaries. The ability to say enough will become easier, not from exhaustion, but from knowing what no longer nourishes the soul. The ability to let go will feel lighter, not from indifference, but from trusting that I am opening something better. Each step like this continues to release the last fragments of the chains that old pain once left behind. Then the inner strength will return. Not the kind of strength that battles everything, but the strength that stands still in peace. That strength settles the voice, sharpens the gaze, and makes the mind more flexible. As lightness is restored, the soul begins to move with an entirely different rhythm. This rhythm is no longer driven by defensive reflexes, but led by spiritual confidence. And in that rhythm, the true self, the version I formed from the beginning, will begin to appear more clearly than ever. I desire that the end of this journey is not merely healing, but commissioning the calling to live as one who carries the truth I have placed within you. That truth causes your presence to shine. without effort. When you enter any space, your gentleness will calm those around you. When you speak, your sincerity will draw trust. When you choose, wisdom will lead to good fruit. You will not need a loud voice to prove what is right, for your life itself will be the proof. You will not need to argue to defend your worth, for my peace will be your strongest shield. And when you look back on the road you have walked, what you will recognize is not the pain but the quiet resilience that is held you until now. Not the losses but the ways I used them to carve new paths. Not the falls, but the times you rose again in the darkness when no one saw. Every one of those moments has become the soil for the new season. The season where the soul is revived, the mind renewed, truth becomes breath, and purpose becomes the path. And I want you to go forward with this awareness. No one understands you like the Father. No one loves you as deeply as the Father. No one sees every unseen layer the way I do. No one can heal you to the root the way I can. I am here unmoving, unchanging, unshaken. And I will lead you through each day, each rhythm, each breath until your entire life becomes the completed masterpiece I have written over you from the very beginning. Let your soul be set down into a gentle stillness. For in that quiet, I can reach deeper into the root layers that have been neglected for many years. When life rushes by, people often try only to heal the obvious wounds, while the silent places are covered under hundreds of reasons and distractions, yet those hidden places are the ones that determine long-lasting peace. When I let light reach the bottom of your soul, everything becomes clear without becoming overwhelming. My light is not like the harsh glare of judgment. It is like the first morning ray. Touching the dew just a little is enough to warm the whole earth. In that light there is no shame, only truth and release. When truth is seen, the soul no longer needs to run. And when freedom comes, the soul begins to breathe according to its true rhythm. There are memories you once thought you had forgotten, but in reality, they were only pushed down by busyness or by the effort of pretending to be fine. Whenever those memories rise, the emotions tied to them rise as well, sending the mind into confusion without knowing why. They are echoes of earlier days. Cold glances, wounding comparisons, moments of abandonment, times when no one believed you, sighs you swallowed so you wouldn't create trouble. I have seen all of it. And today I am gently placing those memories back where they belong behind you, no longer leading the way. When the past is put in its proper place, it no longer overwhelms the present. And the present finally has room to live naturally without strain, without avoidance. As healing begins to touch your emotions deeply, the mind opens new pathways of thinking. You will no longer see everything through the lens of old wounds, but through the lens of truth. You will no longer hear the old internal voices saying, "Not enough. Don't belong. No one stays, but will begin hearing my whispers. Chosen, loved, held, guided." These words are not empty affirmations, but life flowing from the Father. When they soak in, insecurity dissolves without a fight. When they soak in, comparison loses its power. When they soak in, self-protection becomes unnecessary. A soul that knows it is unconditionally loved is always strong in a very quiet way. Going one layer deeper, I begin restoring your ability to feel the beauty of life. A capacity once suffocated by exhaustion and strain. The sky becomes clearer. An ordinary late afternoon feels warmer. A hug grows more valuable. A moment of peace becomes precious like gold. The world has not changed. Your soul is awakening. And when the soul returns to life, everything around it comes alive as well. The way you see life changes. The way you feel changes. The way you walk changes not through forced effort, but like a tree after the season's first rain, natural, light, and vibrant. In the days ahead, I will make peace your foundation. Peace is not the absence of problems. It is the confidence that even when problems arise, they cannot remove the truth that your Father holds the entire journey. This peace becomes visible in the way your mind responds to the unexpected. No more immediate panic. No more spiraling into negative thoughts. No more retreating into isolation. Instead, a small pause will appear. A pause that gives me room to speak before anxiety has the chance to rise. That pause is created by a renewed mind. That pause is the mark that your soul is maturing. I also want to teach you a profound truth. True restoration is not always loud. It is not a single dramatic breakthrough. It is a series of small delicate movements like underground streams. A choice to loosen your grip. A sincere prayer. A moment of courage when you finally speak what's been held inside. A time when you choose peace instead of reacting. A half step forward beyond your fear. Every small movement I see, and I use each one like a stone to rebuild the foundation of your inner life stronger, deeper, more stable. There will be nights when your mind feels strangely light. Not because everything is perfect, but because my protection becomes unmistakably clear. There will be mornings when the heaviness that once dragged you down is gone. There will be moments in your work when you suddenly notice you are thinking calmly instead of anxiously. There will be conversations where your heart no longer tightens. These are signs that I am at work within you. Steady, patient, unhurried. There is nothing I touch that remains unhealed. Nothing I see that I ignore. Nothing I begin that I do not finish. When the deepest layers of the soul are healed, the level of freedom begins to rise. Freedom from old judgments. Freedom from the pressure to please everyone. Freedom from the need to always appear strong. Freedom from nameless fears. Freedom from the false identities the world placed on you. This freedom is not rebellion. It is a return to the original design I placed within you. A nature gentle yet strong, humble yet sharp, kind yet firm. Freedom in my way always leads to clarity. And in the midst of all this healing, purpose begins to become clear. No more wandering in the questions. What was I born to do? Or why did I have to go through so much difficulty? Purpose is not a job or a role. Purpose is the way you carry the life of heaven into each day. A timely word can save someone from despair. A sincere smile can open the heart of someone wounded. A righteous decision can shift the direction of an entire environment. A moment of gentleness can heal someone who is trembling. This is how you become my voice in the place where you stand, not through outward authority, but through the quiet truth you carry within. Deep restoration will also do something else. It will help you recognize your own worth in a way you never have before. Not a worth measured by results or success, but a worth rooted in the truth that you were intentionally created by me. There is no flaw in your design. There is no mistake in your existence. There is no should have been that makes you less. When you see yourself through the eyes of the Father, every crack becomes a doorway for light to pass through. Every lack becomes a space where grace is poured in. Every shortcoming becomes the very place where you meet me most closely. And as you see this, shame falls off layer by layer until the soul becomes light, like someone newly born again. Finally, I want to leave within your heart a conclusion that is gentle yet powerful. This process does not end here. Healing does not stop. Renewal does not stop. Resurrection does not stop. Each day I will add a little more clarity to your mind, a little more strength to your soul, a little more peace to every breath. And each time you choose to walk according to truth, that truth will widen within you. One day when you look back, you will realize you have traveled so far from the old wounded places that you barely recognize you once carried them. Not because they never existed, but because I have turned them into the soil from which new life grows. Let your heart settle once more before stepping out of these words. Because the closing of a message is as important as its beginning. This is not a hurried ending, but the final breath I place into your soul so that my words do not merely stay in memory, but sink into your foundation. Everything I have spoken through this journey was not meant to stir temporary emotion, but to open a real pathway for lasting restoration. When you leave this message, the world may not change instantly, but inside, something will have shifted. The rhythm of your heartbeat will feel different. The way you sense things will feel different. Peace will lie within you like an underground spring, ready to rise whenever the soul needs it. And that quiet shift will become the evidence that I am still working. Even when you no longer hear my voice as directly as you do right now, remember this above all. No one understands the deepest layers of your soul the way the Father does. No one sees the subtle spiritual tremors the way I see them. No one can touch the frozen places the way I touch them. And no one can hold your fragile heart steady the way I hold it. Every word I place within you carries the intention to heal, to lift, and to separate you from what has run dry so I can bring you into the land where life flows. If in the days ahead your mind becomes clouded again, simply return to what I have spoken. I am renewing you day by day. That renewal does not depend on mood, circumstances, or achievements. It depends on the love and authority of the Father. And that love never changes and that authority never weakens. There will come moments in ordinary life when you suddenly notice that you respond differently, more gently, more clearly, with less panic. There will be moments when you look in the mirror and no longer see yourself shrinking. Moments when you hear a sentence that once caused your heart to tighten, and now you feel only peace. Moments when you stand before something that once made you tremble, but now feel your feet steady as though a hand is placed behind your back. These moments will come little by little, day by day, breath by breath. You do not need to chase them. They will come on their own. Because when truth takes root, its fruit appears in the right season. Walk forward with gentleness toward yourself and with confidence that healing does not need to be completed overnight. The Father is walking with you. The Father is lifting each step. The Father is correcting each thought. The Father is illuminating each hidden corner. And He is leading your soul back to where it belonged from the beginning. Where there is no bondage, no lingering shadows of the past, no old fears, only real life, clear purpose, and enduring love. As you step forward, let this be the final seal upon your heart. I will walk beside you in every rhythm, every day, until truth becomes your breath and purpose becomes your path. Thank you for receiving this message. Remember, you are not merely a viewer, you are chosen to live daily in the presence of God's Word. Be sure to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and tap the hype option so you never miss a divine message. Amen.